Since I've been emphasising the process of learning so much, we need to step back here for a second and consider what media we're faced with right here and now. What is a me lecture and what is it for? Well, when I first came up with the idea of a me lecture in 2013, it was partly influenced by the concept me media, which is discussed briefly by David Bell in his chapter as part of Digital Culture's Understanding New Media, where your recommended reading for this week comes from. In another sense, a me lecture is my version of the iLecture recording of on-campus lectures, or what are now called classes at Deakin, and you might like to think about this shift in terminology and what it means. I remember last year one of the first questions asked in a seminar about the me lectures is, it's not just you talking to the camera, is it? And the answer is no, definitely not. And you wouldn't necessarily want that. The me lectures are a combination of my reflections on theory and examples, conversations I'll have with people who are often experts in the fields we'll be looking at, and some contributions by students from the unit. Students really embraced this opportunity last year, which was fantastic, and hopefully I won't be talking to myself this year. No one else wants to talk to. Is that seriously going to be your only contribution? Sorry. The me lectures will usually be uploaded by the middle of the week, depending on what kind of footage I've got to acquire for them. But we need to think clearly and explicitly about the pros and cons of these video me lectures, so that we're not disadvantaged as we proceed throughout the trimester. In terms of limitations, students noted that it was difficult to focus and easy to get distracted while watching these videos. The me lectures each week will be between 1 and 3 videos. I'd rather do 3 10-minute videos than 2 15-minute videos, but that might depend on the footage. The reason why I prefer shorter videos and potentially more of them is that one student I remember said it's difficult to get through a 10-minute YouTube video, and this is important to consider. If you think about it, one of the first things you do when looking at a YouTube video is to check its duration. Think of these videos as lectures, not YouTube videos, and take notes even where useful, or just to keep you focused. But there are advantages to these videos. They're accessible, you can watch them when you want, you can pause them and come back to them. And of course, it means I can exploit my dog for work purposes. Dance for the camera! It also allows me to put digital media into practice, to practice what I'm preaching. Daphne, come here! Come on! Come on! But more importantly, they give you access to multiple perspectives on the unit topics, through the conversations I'll have with other people. All of what I've been talking about so far relates in some way to the major theme of this week, Media Studies 2.0. And who better to talk to us about Media Studies 2.0 than Adam Brown 1.0, who in 2013 was first coming to terms with this rather daunting but also very useful approach. Media Studies 2.0 is an approach put forward in a couple of blog posts initially. One was by David Gauntlet, who I've discussed in the study notes, and another was by William Merrin, who posted his blog post a little bit earlier, I believe, but roughly the same time. They both called this set of ideas that they had Media Studies 2.0, and they wanted an upgrading, a regeneration, if not a revolution, in the discipline, how media studies is taught, how it's conceptualized. Media Studies 2.0 is about a lot of things, but it's particularly about creativity, participation, and user-generated content, and the relationship between those things. And that's the kind of thing we'll be looking at, thinking about, and putting into practice throughout the trimester. As you've noted in the study notes, it's really highlighted that this unit is heavily influenced by ideas of Media Studies 2.0. But at the same time, it doesn't mean we're just going to take it on board uncritically and not really think through what we're doing. I don't agree with everything in Media Studies 2.0. William Merrin is very disillusioned, for example, with the process of the publication of scholarly publications, the peer reviewing and so on, which he discusses briefly in your reading. I think he takes that a bit too far. David Gauntlet also rejects textual analysis in a way that I completely disagree with, and I'm going to come back to that later in the trimester. So don't think that this is the be-all and end-all of media studies, and this is your reading by William Merrin is a very enthusiastically written and energetic and very provocative reading, and you may find that you don't agree with everything in it as well. Think about how your demographic, particularly if you're almost a school leaver, is being portrayed in that reading. Another really useful phrase that Gauntlet uses, and the title of one of his recent books, is making is connecting. And this really fits in with the Media Studies 2.0 idea. The rationale for making is connecting is really useful to think through, and that's been republished in his recent Kindle book, which we can have a look at now. Gauntlet writes that it is through the process of making that we make new connections between our materials, creating new expressive things. And we'll be doing that partly in the formal assessment and hopefully in other ways of this unit when you come to create digital text in a couple of weeks' time. Gauntlet also writes that by making things, we also make connections with each other by sharing what we've made and contributing to our relationships by sharing the meanings which we've created individually or in collaboration. And you'll be doing both of those things throughout. And Gauntlet also writes that it is through making things and sharing them with others that we feel a greater connection with the world and more engaged with being more active in the environment rather than sitting back and watching. So there's a new conceptualization of what used to be called, for Media Studies 2.0 theorists, the audience. Merrin writes that the concept of the audience is problematic. Both Gauntlet and Merrin emphasise that Media Studies 2.0 does not simply seek to glorify or glamorise digital media, but it also seeks to examine its more negative aspects. Gauntlet writes in his recent Kindle book that, following the participatory and creative dimension of Web 2.0, Media Studies 2.0 is interested in the everyday participatory and creative possibilities of media, as compared to the focus of traditional media studies on professional media consumed by audiences who had to take what they were given. At the same time, it is concerned with the dark side of this phenomenon, where users knowingly or unknowingly participate in their own surveillance by the corporations who often have access to this data. And we'll come back to this crucial issue of surveillance in a couple of weeks' time. So as you can see, there are a lot of similarities between Media Studies 2.0 ideas and the content delivery and assessment in this unit. To take one more example, your reading by Merrin states that Media Studies 2.0 involves the lecture being replaced by the conversation. And I hope that that's what these Me lectures will, if not become, at least lead to. So do please get involved in the discussions. It doesn't take much. It might be new to you. Get a profile and do what you're comfortable with. But as I said in the first video, try and go out of your comfort zone at times. And you'll probably surprise yourself, and I think you'll really enjoy it. Well, that's enough from me for now. I hope you have a great start to the trimester, and I look forward to talking to you next week, if not beforehand. Cheers. What is a Me lecture? Well, the idea of a Me lecture, which I came up with last year, was partly influenced by the concept Me Media, which is gaining traction when Graham Bell? David Bell. That's Alexander Graham Bell who invented the telephone. And he didn't actually watch QI.
No, I know, it was on QI.
That's going to stuff me up for a while. Shut up. No, it's David Bell. Get the facts right.
This is why my sister didn't want to come with me. And that's probably about all I've got to say, because I'm going to be shot up in the air by a different kind of device. And yeah. So I guess one thing you want to start to think about in relation to the unit is, why do we really even bother doing real world stuff anymore now that we can have simulations so much? Well, you can consider that and what you prefer to do. Yeah. The main thing is that you should basically put in as much as you can to the unit, and you'll get out what you do. You'll get in as much as you put out, and only what you put in you'll get out. Oh, there's one other thing there actually, yeah. No. Would it be possible to do another one?